All right, everyone. So today I wanted to share with you guys some tips and things that you can do to prepare for the upcoming Valentine's fusion that we are 100% confirmed to be getting in the month of February. Now, the community managers of Raid Shadow Legends have mentioned through various announcements that this is 100% going to be coming in the month of February. If you take a look at the in-game announcements, you'll see in the news section, we've got a little coming soon announcement here. It doesn't have any kind of concrete information about the fusion itself yet. It just kind of has some artwork as well as a little bit of background lore. You can take a look at it, but again, there's no details about the actual fusion itself. However, I've been playing Raid Shadow Legends since last April, so getting close to a full year now, and I have played through and completed every fusion event that we've had in-game. They've all been relatively similar, so I have a pretty good idea of what to expect with this upcoming fusion, and I wanted to share with you guys things that you can do to prepare based on the stuff that we have had before in the past. So it is confirmed, it is going to be coming in the month of February. Now, normally in the past, these fusion events have started kind of at the end of the current events that we have going on. So if you take a look at the time of me recording this video right now, we have a couple events going on. Of course, if you guys are watching this later, things might be a little bit different, but right now we've got a champion training event ending in less than 1 day, artifact enhancement ending in a little less than 3 days, and this arena assault ending in a little less than 4 days. So very likely that it's still going to be at least 3 to 4 days or so before we see this actual fusion roll in, because we still have a set of events going on right now. I believe we also have a spider tournament here too, which ends in a little bit less than 3 days. So I wanted to share with you guys an example of what you can expect to see in the actual news and announcements when we get more information about this fusion. Again, this is based off of a lot of the fusion events that we've had before in the past. This isn't the actual calendar for the Valentine's fusion. This is just what you can expect it to look like. So very important. I even put example in the upper left here. But generally, this is what we are going to see when we get more information about that fusion. So we're going to get a list of, first of all, the dates that every event in the fusion is going to take place. Now, the fusion itself is one big giant event. However, it consists of a lot of other smaller events. And these smaller events are things that give rewards, but one of the big rewards that you get are going to be champions that you need in order to complete this fusion. And there's going to be the epic champions, usually the bigger events, or the more whale events, I guess you could even say, will reward those epic champions, and then the smaller events will reward the rare champions, which of course you can fuse into the epics, and then the epics you will eventually be able to fuse into the actual fusion champion that we are going to be getting. So an important thing to note about this calendar is it gives you not only the actual dates of all the different fusion events, so you can kind of line up what you can expect to run. You can plan it out a little bit, but it also gives you the champions as well. And this means that you can prepare in advance by taking a look at the champions that you have. And in a lot of cases, these fusion events will kind of be a mix between either new champions they haven't used before in the actual fusion, and in a lot of cases, a decent amount of the champions will actually already be champions that we have access to. So you can kind of get part of the fusion done already by having certain champions before the event even rolls around. Alright, now let's get into some information and things that you guys can do before the fusion comes out in order to actually prepare. And the very first thing is probably going to be the most important one. I always mention this, and that is going to be to save your resources. Fusions are incredibly resource-intensive events. You know, it's really tough to even say if they're anywhere even close to being free-to-play friendly. I guess if you save your gems and your resources for a very long time, but it's going to take a lot of energy and a lot of resources overall. So now is a very good time, if you haven't already, start keeping an eye on your resources, and any kind of resources that have potential to be saved up in any way, shape, or form, you're going to want to do so. So if you have any kind of energy or stuff in your mailbox, double experience tokens, that's another one that you're probably going to want at least a few of for this fusion event. Save this stuff in your mailbox. I would hold off and not use it right now. That's just one thing though. Of course, you also have your weekly quests, your monthly rewards. If you guys haven't claimed this stuff in a while, you get a decent amount of energy from your monthlies. I unfortunately have already claimed it. Your weeklies, you also get a couple energy refills here as well. The dailies are a little bit more tricky because of course you have to claim these by the end of the day, but it's not really too bad of a habit to, kind of get into the rhythm of not claiming your rewards from your dailies until you're getting close to that period of time where you have to. So for me, that is 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern. It kind of depends on what time zone, but you can kind of keep this stuff in your actual reward screen right up until a couple of minutes before the daily reset. This isn't just going to be useful for the fusion, but it might also be useful for other events that we have coming up as well. So you don't have to claim these rewards the second that you get them. A lot of the times you guys will see a bunch of these red dots on my screen. I know it drives some of you guys crazy, but most of the time that is energy that I'm saving for later in the day or for future stuff. So, let's see, Campaign and Faction Wars, that's one that I really like to mention because the rewards from Campaign and Faction Wars don't actually have a time limit. So if you guys are still working on progressing through the actual game, this stuff right here doesn't have any kind of time limit. You can leave it here as long as you want to. So if you've come across things like energy or double experience boosts, I know you get a decent amount of them in the campaign. Great idea to kind of leave these rewards here until we actually have the fusion event or another really big event. So let's see, Faction Wars, same story. You've got these rewards right here, just like in the campaign. They don't end up expiring. They don't have a time limit like they do in the mailbox. And also, if you are still working on your missions, your challenges, I know there's some decent stuff there that you can kind of wait and not pick up yet. So always a reminder to save your resources for any of these big fusion events that we have because of how unbelievably resource intensive they are. Next up on the list is going back to what I mentioned when I was showing you guys that example calendar of what the fusion might look like, and that is take some time to organize your champions because it's just going to be super painful to grind events in the actual fusion to get champions and then realize that you've already had those champions. You didn't need to use all those resources to get them because you already had them for the fusion. So great time to just kind of go through your champion storage, your champion vault, kind of take note of what champions that you have. And also when the actual fusion calendar does come out, this is just an example once again, but when it does come out, you can kind of go through, take a look at the champions that we need for the fusion, go back through the champions that you have and see which parts of the fusion you might not even have to participate in anyway. So this is always a really big thing and definitely a mistake that I've made many times before is going through and spending a ton of resources on events, working on champions, and then realizing that I already had that champion and I didn't even need to do that to begin with. So all right, another thing is a lot of the fusions, and again, I've played through every fusion that we've had in Raid Shadow Legends. I've been playing for almost a year now. I've completed all the fusions as well. A lot of them, historically speaking, have had champions used in the fusion from the actual campaign. And these are champions that you can actually work on getting right now, even before the fusion event starts. So if you want to get a little bit of a head start, I'm talking about these champions right here, like Valerie, Conqueror. No specifics, but just a lot of the fusions have used these campaign champions before. Not all of them, though, and we don't know 100% yet because we don't have the actual fusion calendar out yet. But if you have these champions, it might end up saving you some resources so you don't have to end up grinding earlier campaign stages, getting these champions later on. If you have a lot of extra energy, might be worth going through and actually getting, one copy of these champions just in case. Maybe you're going to be really limited on time when the fusion does come out. Definitely not a bad way to prepare. Now, unfortunately, the dungeon champions, a lot of the fusions have also used various champions that you get in dungeons like the Ice Golem's Peaks, the Spider Den, Dragon's Lair, Fire Knight's Castle. Unfortunately, when those fusion champions become available, they have a time limit. So you can't grind things like the Ice Golem's Peak right now in order to get the champions for the fusion. They won't become available until the fusion is released. But that's not true for the campaign. You could still end up getting all the campaign champions as of right now. All right, next up, this is going to be a really big one, especially if you have a lot of extra time, energy, and resources right now. You can definitely get a head start on the fusion by working on this in advance, and that is historically all fusion events that we've had have come along with a giant champion training event. Very similar to the one that we have going on right now, which actually ends today, except this one is a 14,000 point champion training. The fusion events usually have something along the lines of a 25 or 30,000 point champion training event, and it usually lasts for something like 10 days or 14 days. So you'll have virtually the entire fusion to actually work on this champion training event, but it's still a major grind, and it takes a lot of grinding in order to work on leveling up the food and the champions to get those points. So if you guys have some extra time and energy, what you can do right now is actually prepare some champions. You know, if you have some 2-star food, you can get them up to level 20, get them ready to rank up, but not actually rank them up quite yet. And then when the champion training event for the fusion does roll around, you can end up upgrading those champions, ranking them up, and getting a whole bunch of points right off the bat. So it'll save you some actual grind when the fusion does come out. So just keep in mind that you have to be conscious of your actual champion space. The less champion space that you have, the more difficult it really is to be able to use that strategy to get a bit of a head start. But that is something that you can do. All right, next up is, historically speaking, artifact enhancement events. Now, for a very long time, the artifact enhancement events were kind of put on pause because there was a big problem that was with the event, causing it to pretty much crash the entire servers. But recently, the artifact enhancement events have made a comeback. In fact, we have one going on right now, and it really won't surprise me. Plarium likes to bombard us with these artifact enhancement events because they use a lot of silver. So even though we have one running right now, it wouldn't surprise me if we got another one very soon when this fusion came out. In fact, we might even get 2. We've had fusions where not only have we had one artifact enhancement event, we've had 2 separate ones running in the same fusion event. So not a bad idea to not only save up silver for these artifact enhancement events for the fusion, but also just to kind of go through your artifacts and get a sense and understanding of which artifacts you want to upgrade. Because I know, me personally, if I don't know what upgrades I want for my artifacts, it can take me a lot of time to just kind of go through, take a look at the almost 700 artifacts I have and decide which ones I want to upgrade. So this is something that you can work on right now, spend the time doing now, so that when the fusion comes out, you don't have to use all that time to do something that you could have done to prepare earlier on. So that's going to be a big one, and now that they fixed the artifact enhancement event, you can definitely expect it to make a comeback in the fusion events that we have in the future. Another one, really, really easy one right off the bat, great thing that you can do before the actual fusion begins that you are probably not going to want to do when the fusion starts, is Ascension Potions. You're going to need Ascension Potions for all the champions. You're going to need to max ascend them. You're going to need to rank them up and level them up just in order to actually fuse them in the fusion screen here. But now is not a bad time to spend a little bit of time going through the dungeons, getting some additional Ascension Potions, so you don't have to worry about that when the event actually rolls around and we have a very strict time limit. Now, the only downside to this that I can think of is we don't know the actual affinities of the champions for the fusion itself. So you know, you might not be able to fully prepare for this, but you can get at least a few Ascension Potions for each of the affinities. You can guess as well, you know, you can kind of work around this the way that you want to. I know that for the Torment Fusion, it was all Void champions. Nobody was really expecting that, so a lot of people had to do a lot of grinding for specifically Void Potions, but definitely not a bad idea to at least prepare a little bit for this. And as you guys can see, I'm pretty good on the greater potions and even the superior potions for a lot of stuff, but I definitely need some work on those lesser potions. So I've got to get started on that myself as well. All right, next up is the summon events. Now, this is something that always rolls around with pretty much every fusion event, is we have some sort of combination of summon rushes, champion chase tournaments, something along those lines. And, you know, it's really tough because the game obviously wants you to use your valuable shards like your Ancients, your Voids, and your Sacreds, but something that you can do starting right now to prepare in advance is save up a good amount of Mystery Shards so that when these summoning events roll around for the fusion, you don't have to use your more valuable shards like your Ancients, Voids, and your Sacreds to get points to get those champions, and you can just end up using your Mystery Shards instead. You always want to try to save your Ancients, Voids, and your Sacreds for those ×2 summoning events for extra chances at epics and legendaries. It's very unlikely that with a fusion event going on, they're going to roll out a ×2 event at the same time. So, you know, they always make it difficult. This is how they make money. And if you could stock up on some mystery shards and save yourself the more valuable resources, definitely a great thing to do. So, on that same lines, If you are working on ranking up food, you can always end up buying stuff from the market. You can buy your 1-star and your 2-star champions. Yes, it's a little bit more expensive in terms of silver, but you can use this as your food and then save up on your mystery shards for when the actual fusion comes out so you can get points. So you kind of compromise using a little bit of extra silver for possibly saving up some mystery shards. If you already have thousands of mystery shards saved up already, you don't really need to worry about this, but if you are low and you want to save your more valuable resources, this is definitely something you can do to prepare. All right, next up is, very importantly, you're not going to be able to do this until the actual fusion event comes out, but something that you want to do right when it comes out before you really get to work on using your resources on anything in the event is take some time to go through and map out all the different little mini events. Take a look and see what events give what champions. Go through your champions and see which ones you already have, what events you don't need to work on, and really spend some time working on this carefully, because it's very easy to just get completely lost with the crazy calendar that they end up giving us. Again, this is just an example, but it's really going to overwhelm you. It's really easy to accidentally forget about one of these champions at one of these events, realize that you won't be able to get that champion, and now you won't be able to do the entire fusion. It really sucks. You know, it's a flaw in the system. I'm sure Plarium does it on purpose, but absolutely going to be worth maybe the half an hour to an hour time investment right when the event comes out to kind of map this out yourself so that you don't run into these problems later on after you've used a bunch of resources. And the last thing on the list, probably the most important one, I always like to mention it when I kind of put out these guide and tip videos, is have fun and don't overstress, especially before the actual fusion comes out. You don't want to go too crazy over preparing for the fusion and then get so burnt out that you don't actually want to participate in the fusion itself. So you could do some of these things to prepare, you can do all of them, you could pick and choose, but just don't get to the point where you aren't having fun anymore and you won't want to participate in the fusion itself. So that's always the number one thing. I also want to say, as a bit of a disclaimer, I mentioned it at the start, but once again at the end, a lot of this info has been based off of the previous fusions that we've had. I've been playing for almost a year. I've played through it and completed every fusion event in Raid Shadow Legends. So, you know, some of this stuff, when the fusion comes out, they might make some changes, they might shake it up a little bit, but generally speaking, this should give you guys a pretty good idea of what to expect and a list of things that you guys can do to prepare. So with that all being said, that is going to be it for the video today. I really hope that this helped out and you guys enjoyed. And if you guys did enjoy this video and you want more videos like this in the future, consider subscribing to the channel. Feel free to toss a quick like as well. It helps out more than you can imagine, and more Raid Shadow Legends videos, guides, tutorials, and all that fun stuff should be popping up on the screen right about now. Feel free to check them out also in the right or on the bottom in your suggested videos. And that's going to be it for today. Have a fantastic day. This is Salt of the Salty Guild, signing out.